All right, what's up, guys? Welcome in to this Alabama versus Texas post-game reaction show. Tough night for the Crimson Tide, Jake. Stacey Blackwood, Jake Thomas, here to discuss the Alabama-Texas matchup. Unfortunate for the Crimson Tide, did not put their best effort forward tonight against the Longhorns, but you got to give Steve Sarkisian and the guys at Texas credit. They come in, they played hard, they played physical. And they made the necessary plays to get the win in Bryant-Denny Stadium. So, Jake, just initially, what's your thoughts on the game and how it played out?
Yeah, it's very disappointing being on the losing end of these things. But as a college football fan, though, this is exactly what college football is all about. I mean, that stadium, Bryant Denny, was electric tonight. And my gosh, the atmosphere all night was just popping. And I hate to be on the losing end of side of things like that, but I mean, that's what college football is about. That's just the passion that fan bases have with their programs. Going to the game, though, it was very disappointing. Of course, we're on the losing end of it, but I got to give credit where credit's due. Of course, you mentioned Steve Sarkisian; he had a great game plan. But Quinn Ewers, there was a point in the game where they showed that he's like the sixth best quarterback in the NFL prospect wise. I'm like, who's better than him right now? And he just he did great tonight. I feel like, I mean, like you see there, 3 touchdowns, 14 and a half yards per average, 349 yards total. I mean, he just played out of his mind. And, I got to give credit where credit is due. He did a great job.
Well, the knock on Ewers lately has been his inability to hit the deep ball. I think he was 0 of 6 or 0 of 7 last week against Rice. And then, I think he hit 5 or 6 against Alabama tonight. And he was really accurate with the football, especially on the deep throws. So, sometimes you just got to tip your hat. Sometimes a team's just better than you on that given night. And I think that was the case tonight. Texas made the plays when they needed to. And, despite what Alabama didn't do right, I don't want to start this off by not giving Texas credit because they deserve credit. They come into a hostile environment, like you mentioned, and got a really tough win against a team that's, look, I know people live in the moment and they're a victim to the moment, but look, Alabama's got a good football team. They're going to be fine. They're going to be a really good football team when this season's over with. So were they at their best tonight? No. They didn't. They did a lot of things that are really uncharacteristic. Well, I don't know if you can call it uncharacteristic. The penalties, once again, Jake, that offsides by Dallas Turner, which extended the game for Texas to let them run out the clock. That kind of was the epitome of Alabama in this game. Just could not get out of their way. And that's, like I said, not to take anything away from Texas, just the penalties for Alabama was just, they couldn't overcome it, Jake. And, especially when you lose the turnover battle, when you lose the penalty battle, when you lose the big play battle or the explosive plays, you're not going to win a lot of football games, especially against good teams like Texas.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I, looking in the comments here, Roderick, I believe he's got a good point. Kind of spoiled. We had Bryce. We've been spoiled at quarterback here lately, and now we've got a new guy, trying to get his feet wet. But I put a poll out. Do you Bama fans think we need to change the quarterback? You think that would help matters? So, let's get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Right now, 83% of the votes are in saying that Alabama does need to make a change at quarterback. I am always in the boat that I'm going to let the coaches make that decision because they're at practice every day and I'm not. So, right. I mean, I think there's a reason they're playing Jalen Milroe right now. It's because he's better than the other options, at least at this moment. So, look, Jalen Milroe had a tough night, an up and down performance, really, Jake. There was moments where he showed what he is capable of doing, but the 2 turnovers were costly. I think that, they're mistakes that he's not going to make if he's a more experienced player. So I hate that fans are so quickly to jump on him and blame it all on him. But it's just the nature of the way it is with college football fans. But uh, as far as the Alabama offense goes, to me the biggest disappointment was the offensive line, Jake.
Hmm.
They early on in the contest looked like they were getting some movement along the offensive
Right.
line and on the ground game. Jace McClellan was off to a really good start, and then it just kind of went downhill from there. They couldn't protect Milroe. They wasn't opening up running lanes for the running backs, and it just become really hard for Alabama to have any kind of consistency or continuity on the offensive side of the ball, and that is not going to be helpful to a quarterback who's making his third career start. So the other guys around Milroe got to play better too. So it's not fair to put it all on Milroe. Could he have played better? Absolutely. Does he need to play better? Absolutely. But to think that it's all because we lost all because of Jalen Milroe, that's laughable. I'm sorry if you think that's laughable. And I mean, look, the defense gave up a ton of yards in this game, Jake. A lot of explosive plays. They couldn't get off the field when they needed to get off the field. And that's part of the game too. It's a team effort. They didn't lose just because of Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey. And one thing that I saw in the comment as well was there was no pass rush tonight, and that was a
Nope.
big thing that I feel like kind of tipped the tide in Texas' favor a little bit because when you allow yours to have all the time in the world to throw, he's going to pick you apart, and he did tonight for sure.
Yeah, and I'm trying to catch up in the chat because the chat is buzzing. Thank you all
Yeah.
for tuning in and watching. Um, I want to go back. Look, Quinn Ewers he made every play that he needed to make. He wasn't always perfect in the game, Jake. There was a few passes that he kind of missed that you're like, oh, how do you miss that? But for the
Hmm.
most part, Jake, I mean, 24-38, 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he was not sacked one time.
Yeah.
That is the story of the game, Jake. We can talk about Milroe's stats all we want to, but that stat line that you see right there for Quinn Ewers, that's the story of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, man. He had a great night. Kind of feel like we was going to be ready for him because we kind of saw what he did last year against Alabama, the first half where he got hurt. But unlike that game from last year to this game, we had a little bit of a pass rush on him, got him moving the pocket, and had that big sack. Turner injured him, unfortunately, for Texas, and in that game, but who knows what could have happened in that game if he was healthy. But overall, Quinn Ewers played out of his mind, and when it mattered, he made the plays, and Alabama did not.
Yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to. Look,
Hmm.
you can make it, you can make all sorts of, because the truth is, if you look back at this game, Jake, my goodness, the ball every time it needed to bounce somebody's way, it bounced Texas' way.
Hmm.
So and look, you got to have some good fortune. You got to have some
Right.
good fortune if you're going to win some football games, especially in a hostile environment against a good quality opponent like Alabama. But so the ball didn't bounce Alabama's way. They committed too many penalties. They turned it over twice. They didn't sack Ewers. They got sacked 5 times. Uh, they could not stop the explosive plays from Texas. That's a recipe for a losing effort. So, Texas just outplayed Alabama in this game, Jake. It's just the facts. It doesn't mean anything other than Texas was better than Alabama on September 9th of
Yeah.
2023. That's all it means. The season it's a long season. There's 10 more regular season games to go. Anything can happen. The SEC West looks up for grabs. Remember, A&M has a loss.
Hmm.
LSU has a loss. So this conference is wide open. I mean,
Hmm.
I think it's safe to say that anybody in the West can win it.
Yeah,
Outside of maybe well, not really anybody. I mean, we don't know enough about the other teams yet.
right, and Ole Miss kind of looked suspect today against Tulane. So I mean, there's holes there that can be exploited. So like you said, the West is up for grabs. I feel like you know, if Alabama gets their issues correct, I still feel like we could be the team to beat in the West. I'm not trying to be a homer, but the fact of the matter is, and I've told several people this tonight, Alabama has multiple national championships with one loss. So we're not down and out yet. I mean, and you can arguably almost say that the team last year, even though it lost 2 games, should have been one of the four in the playoffs last year.
Right. I mean, it's so early in the season. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
this game is this game matters in the moment, and it's going to matter towards the end of the year if you're looking at resumes and stuff like that. But Alabama still does. They haven't lost an SEC game, so they're still in play to win the West and to make the trip to Atlanta. And so I don't feel like people should panic. Like this guy saying Bama will lose 4 more games. To who? To who?
Right.
To who? To Texas A&M, who got blown out by Miami?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to hear who they're going to lose to.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, Alabama's got all of their tough games at home this year. So besides the A&M game and Auburn, of course. So
yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying Alabama's fixing to run the table, but if people think the season's over with because of a loss to Texas, who looks like a really good football team, Jake, their defense played discipline. They attacked, they tackled well in space. They can get pressure with 4 guys, which is something we talked about all throughout the week. Was Texas having the ability to get pressure with their 4 defensive linemen? So look, Texas is a good football team. So there's still a lot of season to go. And so, and you got to remember, Jake, Alabama had 2 touchdowns that were called back for penalties.
Right, exactly.
And I don't think either penalty affected the play as far as it would have been a touchdown regardless of that penalty happened or not, is what I'm saying. So they had two touchdowns taken off the board there. So, like we mentioned, the ball bounced Texas' way every time. That 4th down quarterback sneak where Alabama stuffed them, and Ewers never even had the ball, and the running back picked it up. And then I think the next play, the ball was batted down the line of scrimmage, went right to Ewers, and he picked up 4 or 5 yards. Just plays like that, man. It just went Texas's way. It was their night. They played the best game. They were the best team tonight, and you move on, you get better. But Alabama has a lot to move on from and a lot to get better from, Jake. They've got to shore up that back end of the defense. I was really, if I had to be disappointed in something, it was the back end of that defense, Jake, and the offensive line. I thought those 2 units would be better tonight than what they were.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey. And, it's disappointing, but I've told people tonight as well, this is going to be a teachable moment for Saban and the coaching staff moving on to this week. Saban, I don't know if you really want to play a Saban-led team after they lose a game, especially in the first couple of weeks, because I believe you're going to see more discipline and a lot better play than what we saw tonight once that talk comes and they just get their minds right. I think it's a lot of mental stuff, especially some of the penalties tonight. Just a lot of mental issues, like Seth snapping the ball twice before even picking it up and snapping it. He's never done that in his entire career at center. It was just weird.
Such a weird game for Seth McLaughlin. I don't know if he's ever had a pre-snap penalty. And he had two tonight. He can't snap the ball to Milroe for some reason. I don't know what the heck that's about. That's 2 weeks in a row. So that's got to be something that's a little alarming to the coaching staff. Let's see. Here's another classic overreaction. Come on, guys. Is Nick's time done? If Milroe is the best we have, shame on our recruiting. All the quarterbacks are just young right now. I mean, that's just the fact. I mean, they're all young players right now. Milroe has talent. If you can't see that Milroe has talent, then I don't know what you're watching. He made two mistakes in this game that were boneheaded plays by a guy that hasn't played a lot of football against quality competition in college football. That's what that was.
3rd career start for him too.
Yes, I mean, look, I'm not saying Alabama's going to win it all with Milroe, but you can't place this entire game on Milroe's shoulders.
Right.
If the offensive line blocks better, maybe it's a little different outcome. Maybe we can run the football a little bit better. If the defensive line can generate some pass rush, maybe we knock Quinn Ewers on his butt a few times and he throws an interception or 2, and we don't have as many busted coverage in the back end of the defense. So, once again, you can't put it all on Milroe. But like everything else, it's always either the quarterback is the hero or he's the villain. Right. It's never in between, when in fact there's 22 players that play in a football game. You have your 11 stars on offense and your 11 stars on defense, and obviously you have some special teams players as well. Really, it's more than that. But look, you can't pin it all on Milroe. Does he have a lot to improve on? No doubt about it. But if you're surprised that he has a lot to improve on after his 3rd career start, then I mean that's on you. I mean that's your problem for having that expectation.
Yeah, I've really I've been high on Milroe. I really wanted him to win this job. But I'm also a realist. I know he's got issues. He has some great plays, and he has some boneheaded plays, like you said, Stacey. I mean, his deep pass is something spectacular for sure.
That's a weapon. That is a
Yeah,
weapon.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean that ball he threw to Jermaine Burton. I mean, Jermaine Burton was going to be the only one that caught that ball. I mean, it was just perfectly thrown. Then the week before, Middle Tennessee State, those two to Isaiah Bond were really great. He's got that. He can throw the deep ball, but his short and intermediate and I just reading the defense has got to improve if he wants to take that next step.
Yeah, a lot of people are still calling for Alabama to make a change at quarterback, and I'm not saying they won't. They may do it. I don't know.
Right.
I think it's certainly a possibility because what's the one thing Saban hates from his team? Turnovers, and so
Right.
he's not gonna put up with turnovers very long. So the good news for Alabama. Look, they play a South Florida team that's not really that good next week down in Tampa. So maybe it's an opportunity for them to try somebody else out. We'll see. But Coach Saban's usually fairly honest about things, so it'll be interesting to see what his post-game comments are on Milroe's performance. And look, it wasn't great. He wasn't spectacular by any stretch of the imagination, but his ability to hit the deep ball kept Alabama in the game because Alabama's defense just couldn't get stops when they needed to get stops. They were getting burnt in the back end. They couldn't get no pressure on yours, and that was the story of the game.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey. Winners and losers this game. One winner I do want to say, even though it's kind of hard to pick winners and a losing effort, but I feel like Amari Niblack is starting to come into his own. He had a huge touchdown run or a pass there that he caught, and then he broke a couple of tackles, and then Isaiah Bond just laid a dude out as a block on that run as well. So Amari Niblack, I feel like is. No, I think he's finally coming to his own a little bit. He got a little bit better pass protection when he was called on. So I would say he's one of the winners for Bama tonight.
Yeah, such a weird game because it was almost like the whole team had moments where they looked really good, and then they had moments where you're like, man, what are they doing?
Right.
The penalties come to mind, especially pre-snap penalties. That you just can't have those. Terrion Arnold really had an up and down game. He made a lot of plays, but then he gave up a lot of plays, and for some reason we kept having one-on-one matchups with Xavier Worthy or the other slot receiver, Weddington, was that his name?
Something
Willington.
like that.
Having one-on-one matchups with them with safeties, and that's no good. So just a weird game for all the way around, and obviously disappointed. You want to win every game, but got to give Texas a lot of credit, Jake. They come in ready to play. They were ready to play from the opening snap, and they gave Alabama all they wanted and more. And Alabama just didn't have enough to come out with a win, and Texas did. And credit to Coach Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers and that defensive front, because that defensive front did not make it easy for that Alabama offensive line.
Yeah, we got a comment I want to comment on in the chat. Apparently, this is a Vols fan. It says, why don't you guys use some of those 5-star linemen in old school ground and pound if you're going to stay with Milroe? Well, that first drive, we was ground and pound. It's like Stacey said earlier, Jess McClellan had a couple of holes. We got the ground game moving. And then I feel like in the first half, especially the lack of a threat passing, they was able to bring everybody into the box. And Stacey, you have mentioned about that as one of our keys of the game. If we could set a tone early running the ball, they wouldn't be able to bring, and have a somewhat of a passing game. They wouldn't be able to bring those safeties up in the box. When we didn't have that passing game in the first half, they was able to bring those safeties in the box, had 8 guys in the box, and we took our run game away. So the lack of passing in the first half. Now Milroe kind of generated a little bit better in the second half, but by then, they were still kind of stuffing us. And like you said, that's disappointing because the offensive lineman had talked about being physical all season, and they just didn't get physical enough tonight.
No, and that's we talked about it all summer long, Jake, on our show. That look, don't talk about it, be about it. And
Right.
they were not about it for 60 minutes tonight against Texas. Texas whipped them with their defensive front for a large portion of the game. Anytime you start a true freshman at left tackle in big time college football, you're going to take your lumps, and Caden Proctor certainly did. But like we said, Seth McLaughlin didn't have his best game. Darren Dalcourt didn't have his best game. Even Tyler Booker didn't have his best game. And, might as well include J.C. Latham there as well. He had a pre-snap penalty.
Yep.
He got beat once on a play. So, look, it just wasn't a good performance for Alabama on the offensive line. And then, like we mentioned, the defensive line didn't get no pressure on Ewers. And that's the story of the game. That's where football games are won. Whether you run it or throw it, the game is won in the trenches. So if you can protect the quarterback and establish a decent running game, you're going to win a lot of football games. But if you can't do that, Jake, you're going to make it really difficult, especially if you're trying to break in a new quarterback.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey. And talking about Proctor, I feel like that kid is going to be an outstanding player. But he got beat a couple of times by Burke, and I think the other guy was Hall a couple of times. And I would really like for us to make an adjustment there and put a tight end to help some over there, but we never did, it seemed like. And he did. I think the fourth quarter he played a lot better, and but by then the game was almost out of reach.
I probably misspoke when I said he only made 2 errors. I mean, he only made 2 errors that resulted in a turnover. That's what I meant to say. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, so there's a lot to improve on for sure. And I know Saban and the coaching staff, and again, Stacey, we have said it on our show time and time again. I'm not going to go against the greatest football coach in the history of football, in college football ever.
Right.
He's going to make adjustments.
Hooper Dale, you just must now be joining us. Why don't y'all want to talk about the defense that got dominated? The first 20 minutes of this was talking about how Sark and Quinn Ewers carved up the Alabama defense. So you must have just joined us. Defense second half was allowing Texas offense too much space, and the back end has been a problem. No doubt.
I think we lost Stacey for a sec, but yeah, Raider Girl. I'm sorry, but the quarterback is a problem, and the secondary sucks. What's up with Kool-Aid? He should have changed his name to Burnt Toast. I think we're losing Stacey, so I'm gonna keep going here for a sec. Stacey, you back?
I reckon.
Yeah, there you are.
Let's see, go ahead. Just trying to catch up in the chat so we don't miss anybody. I'm sorry, but
go ahead.
Huge O-line, not impressive. Agree. Yeah. They need to be better. They need to be more consistent. They show signs of being really dominant and physical, but it's a 60-minute game and you got to do it. The pass rush is worrisome. I agree. It's concerning to me that we can't get a better pass rush with 4 guys rushing the passer. That's very upsetting to me. I feel like Alabama should be better at that.
Fishhead 63 says zero sacks. Yeah, equals guaranteed loss.
Most of the time,
pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, no pressure. Yeah, it's bad.
If Miro starts the rest of the season, then this should be expected. Agree, the O-line was horrendous at pass blocking too. Run blocking was fine. How can Texas send 3 guys and get to Miro consistently? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest stories of the game, and that's the biggest reason I don't want to put it all on Miro, because, I mean, you got to think the guy's he's making his 3rd career start. He's still learning the college game. He's still learning how to play against
the speed. Yeah, I mean, the speed of the game too. We lost Stacey again. Sorry, internet issues. Is Ty Simpson really that bad? I don't know that answer. I just feel like the reason why we haven't seen Ty yet is Milroe, of course, is probably the most experienced guy on the, at quarterback right now. Tyler Buckner did come in. Apparently, as we saw last week,
level.
We're losing Stacey once in a while, but Ty Simpson, it seems like Tyler Buckner has overtaken him as of right now. Of course, still practicing and stuff that could be changed. So, I would like to see Buckner and Ty Simpson next week, though, against South Florida for sure.
Am I back on here, Jake?
Yeah, you bet.
Bama Boy 0529 says Stacey got that dial-up internet. Our internet has been horrendous for the last month for some reason. I don't understand. It's been really patchy. How do you explain all the natties with the first-year starter? Well, I mean, who says they're not winning the natty this year? I mean, there was a lot of people who called the Nick Saban dynasty dead and over when they lost to Ole Miss in 2015. So, I mean, what I'm saying, it's the second game of the year, folks. Let's calm down a little bit. Calm down.
Yeah, it's the second game, and while everybody else was out playing like Grambling for instance, Alabama was playing Texas.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee beat Austin Peay 30-13, and that's it.
Yeah,
Austin Peay.
Right. Yeah, and your national champions from last year, Georgia has played Ball State and UT Martin their first 2 games of the year. And I don't think they really have anybody on their schedule until they play Ole Miss, and that's like what, week 8. So I mean,
it's on down the schedule.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest thing is the season's it's early. It's early. Anything can happen. This team can get better. You got to trust the process. Trust Coach Saban. He's delivered more times than not, so I'm going to trust him. And if you think I'm being delusional for trusting the greatest coach of all time, Michael 1960, then I guess I am the world's most delusional person.
Me too. I'm right there with you, Stacey, because trust the process. Saban, he still got it. I mean, he's the greatest coach ever. Why doubt him at all, ever?
Yeah. I mean, I've never once said they're going to win the national championship. I'm just saying, I'm not going to say they're not going to.
I mean, anything can happen. It's the second game of the season, guys. This team can make an immaculate turnaround and be great.
You know what's going to be fun next year when there's a 12-team playoff, and it doesn't matter if you lose 2 or 3 games.
Especially the SEC. I mean, 12-team playoffs, Alabama's almost guaranteed to be in it every single year. It's just a fact. Rob Mack, this D-line is pure hash cheats. Can't get pressure without a blitz. Yeah, defensive line has got to get a lot better. We said earlier, they've got to generate some kind of pressure. Braswell, I've had Braswell
get in the playoffs.
I had Braswell picked as a guy who I felt like could have a big night tonight, and he was nowhere to be found. I don't think I heard him call his name at all tonight. So, that the linebackers, Dallas Turner, I don't think got called many times tonight. So, those guys are, as pass rushers, has got to play a lot better.
Yeah. It's important to remember you're not always going to play your best game, and obviously tonight was not Alabama's best game, and they were still in it for the majority of the contest. They played really poorly. Texas executed really well, and Alabama had turnovers. Texas didn't have any. Texas got sacks. Alabama didn't have any, and Alabama.
Yeah. Stacey's internet's going out again. Sorry about that, guys. Dot Mo, Dallas Turner was a no-show. Yeah, I mean, he had the one,
lose face this.
He had a couple of plays, Hazard Strong says just thought Lonergan kick and play. The issues with the quarterback is they're young. I mean, Ty Simpson's a sophomore. Jalen Milroe is a redshirt sophomore, so essentially a junior, but he ain't played but 3 games. Lonergan is a freshman. So, the quarterback situation, they're just young and they've got to get game experience and the speed of college football. They've got to get acclimated to it. And once they do, I think whoever the quarterback's going to be, they're going to be fine. But we keep losing Stacey, but Dallas Turner's getting double teamed the whole game. Other guys got to step up. Yeah. Talk about Chris Braswell. He should have stepped up. Just no pass rush tonight at all. And that was a killer. Connor Garrett 26 disagree was a freshman coming in the national championship. Rashawn said the same amount of time as Jalen Milroe with one less start. But you can't compare, honestly, Bryce Young to Jalen Milroe. Bryce Young was a once-in-a-generational top talent. I think that's unfair to put them in the same breath. honestly.
Am I back on, Jake?
Yeah, you back. Oh,
Yeah.
you're Tua. Yeah, Tua same way.
Yeah, I mean, comparing Jalen Milroe to Bryce Young, you mean talking about the guy who was just the first pick in the NFL draft?
Yeah,
There's those guys are rare. Those guys
yeah.
are rare.
And he changed it to Tua, which same way Tua come
Yeah, I
in
mean,
that championship game, but still Tua was a special player. Jalen,
generational talent.
right? Jalen Milroe has the tools to be a special player, but again, it's all up here
Yep.
with him.
Yep. The processing for him, he's just not quite there yet. And
Right.
and who knows if and when he'll get there. It's concerning for sure. I want to go back real quick before we wrap this up, Jake. Somebody mentioned the receivers, and I got to brag on those guys. That group has been played really well the first 2 weeks of the season. I thought the receivers have really been maybe the strongest point of the position group on the offense through the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talk about all offseason how they could probably be one of the weak links coming into the season, but they've been one of the strong links, I think, so far. I mean, everybody talking about the drop passes. I don't think we've seen a drop pass yet. Whenever the receivers get their hands on it, so really really strong effort by the receivers. There's a couple guys who we haven't really seen yet, which I feel like is coming. But Kobe Prentice has played really well the last couple of games. Isaiah Bonds played really well. Jermaine Burton is finally being a leader, I feel like, to that unit, and he's playing at a high level right now as well.
Yeah, I agree. I want to say one more thing. I think that Alabama probably needs to look at another quarterback simply because I think we do have a good enough offensive line and a good enough group of running backs and talented enough receivers to make plays. And if you have a quarterback that's hamstringing your offense because he can't read the defense, then you got to make a change. And so if they make a change, I understand it. But if they stick with Milroe for a little bit, I have to believe it's because of what they see in practice. That's what I mean. That's because I'm not there every day in practice like the coaching staff is. So I just imagine that they're probably going to take a look at Buckner or Simpson.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey. At this point, I don't, I feel like changes are going to be made. I don't know what those changes consist of. One of them, I hope, is just a little bit more physical than what we have in the last couple of weeks, or at least this game. But I feel like if a QB change is needed to spark the offense, then it needs to be done. I really like Milroe, but he is kind of hamstring, the offense here, especially tonight. He did show flashes, but flashes only get you so far. You need somebody that's consistent.
Well, when the defense can just walk those safeties down in the box to take away the run because the quarterback they don't fear the quarterback making consistent plays. I mean, you're just hamstringing that offense. So I imagine if my gut tells me that Buckner will probably be the guy who gets the shot.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah. I agree.
He's the more experienced player. He started 3 games for Notre Dame last year, 3 or 4 games. So he's got a little bit of experience. So I imagine if they do make or give somebody a chance, it's going to be Buckner.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey. And one thing before we sign off, I want to say, if things work out well, and again, I know everybody's going to be in the chat just hounding us, but if Alabama can run the gauntlet, I can see Alabama playing Texas again in the playoff, because Texas, I feels like can make a run in the Big 12.
Yeah, here's the key to that is, can Texas handle the success?
Right.
And I feel like Sark's a good coach, but in his time at USC when he was the head coach there, they'd win a big game and then they'd drop one to Washington State or something, or Oregon State. So, how Texas handles this success will be critical for them, because they got a good football team, Jake. They got a defense that they're not an elite defense, but they can make plays. And then they got an offense that has a lot of playmakers and a quarterback that can distribute the ball, and obviously an offensive coach that knows how to get people open.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Stacey.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up, guys. We thank you so much for watching. here on the Bleacher Report app. A lot of fun doing this. We're going to be back again next week as well for a post-game reaction here on the Bleacher Report app. Been a lot of fun. We'll be back next week. Jake enjoyed it. Until next time, everybody, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.